Sisters and brothers, it's been good to be here at the Parliament of World Religions in Toronto. I am very pleased that I came to see the hundreds of you in various settings, not only here in the main sessions, but in the hallways and eating places and the rest. To see many people that I have known across the years, and of course, far more of you I do not know and have not known. We need to commend the Parliament of World Religions for the enormous work that they have done and are continuing to do. And we must leave this place with a sense of our continuing mission as persons, wherever we live and whatever be our work. We must leave this place being determined that we shall continue the camaraderie and the worship and the faith and the love, truth that we have felt here, the humanity that we have felt here, that we will continue to emulate that and continue to try to exercise our lives in such a fashion that we can repeat it over and over and over and over again in the places where we live and work and play. That, it seems to me, would be the only way that we can appreciate the Parliament of World Religions and the fact that we are part of a huge faith element and stream in our world, and that we have the vast potential to be the engines for a different human understanding of the vast worth and infinite potential of life, of our planet Earth, and of the work that we can do that will transform our world into the world that can yet be. I appreciate being here with these my colleagues on the platform, and we have heard in these plenaries and assemblies, as well as in the side workshops, many great and beautiful things, great and good words. I want this morning simply to try to conclude some things in my own mind. I think that all of the world religions that I have met have had a kernel truth and a kernel teaching and a kernel life, that of love and compassion and truth and wonder and kindness. When I went to India in 1953 as a Methodist missionary, as a coach and phys ed teacher and campus minister at Hislop College in Nagpur, I had to immediately, of course, set up an apartment for me to live in and to make my home. And I was advised of a very beautiful general store in one of the main streets of Nagpur where I could find what I needed. And it was a plain-looking building from the outside, 3 or 4 stories high, 2 or 3 stories high, rather. One main wide door. And as I walked into that main door into the store, there was in front of that door a main aisle. On both sides, tall shelves of all sorts of merchandise, no doubt. But as soon as I stepped inside the door, I saw some 75 feet away a brother standing behind the counter. Intuitively, I said to myself, that must be the owner. But as he saw me step inside the door, he disappeared away from the counter, and he re-emerged right in front of me from between two or three of the large cupboards. And he stood right in front of me. And he said, "You are an American Negro." And I said, "Yes." And then he said, "I am a Muslim." And he put his arms around me and said, "We are brothers." Simply, that was my welcome to Nagpur, India, in the first few days of my presence in India. And my heart leaped to his heart. And I knew full well that, in fact, we were brothers under the sign of creation, and we were and are brothers under the sign of our faiths and under the sign of love. That has always remained with me as a guiding, inspiring incident to keep me moving. I want to say this morning as strongly as I can, we, the religions of the world, must stop blessing violence. We, the religions of the world, must stop blessing and anointing war, tiny wars or large wars. We, the religions of the world, must stop blessing hatred in all of its forms, any despising of other people. We, the religions of the world, must stop encouraging plantation capitalism, which is free market capitalism. And we can do this, not in theory, because most of us are in the same place in terms of an analysis of what is hurting humankind and what is causing so much poverty and hurt and pain. I want to insist that we can do this if we see our faith, our love, our compassion as moving us to understand the great power of nonviolent struggle and nonviolent work. Now, it is Gandhi, when he translated ahimsa to nonviolence, who writes in his 1942 book, Nonviolence in a Time of War and Peace, he insists that nonviolence is love. Not love that can be spoken or taught, but love as lived and practiced. Nonviolence is the practice of compassion in the day-to-day struggles of life that we have, and in helping people to organize to do the day-to-day struggles, some of which we've heard already this morning and other mornings together. Let me give you another example of that. The effectiveness of nonviolent struggle. As the pastor of Holman United Methodist Church in Los Angeles, back in the 80s, I received a call one morning from a young woman only perhaps 24 or 25 years of age. She introduced herself to me over the phone as Maria Elena DeRosso. She had grown up in a farm worker's family going up and down the coast of California. She was the first from her family to graduate from college. She had become a union organizer in Los Angeles, And she had in that union, which was a 75 to 80% union made up of Hispanic people and black people, with an all-white male executive board. The board, for example, would not even allow union meetings to be translated into Spanish so that the majority of its members would understand the proceedings. And Maria Elena, being the person she was, a person of great strength and courage, and still is, proceeded not only to organize, but then, because of the condition of the union, became its president at a very young age, under 20. It shows the power that can be used to change. And her question to me was, would you come and teach us nonviolent struggle? And of course I said yes. And she brought the organizers of that union, not very many of them, and the executive committee, and I went to where their offices were for a number of days and did a complete set of workshops designed for them alone. I used the fact that nonviolent struggle is now recorded in any number of books from 1972 on that record that unrecorded history of the human race, where on all continents there is the poetry and the scriptures and the incidents of histories that can be called nonviolent struggle and nonviolent victories, little victories and great victories. The first written act of civil disobedience were two midwives in the first chapter of the book of Exodus of the Hebrew Bible, where they refused to carry out the orders of Pharaoh to see to it that every boy baby was born dead. They did not tell Pharaoh that, but that's what they did. And consequently, Moses was birthed and lived. I used the life of Jesus as a nonviolent athlete. And then I talked indeed about Gandhi, who essentially in 1906 invented to coin the term nonviolence, nonviolent struggle, nonviolent conflict, nonviolent power. Los Angeles was a place, as it still partially is, of great numbers of workers who make wages that do not allow them to put food on their table, or a roof over their head, or to have shelter or transportation, or to be able to give the attention they want to give to the loving and cultivating of their children and the learning of their children, the teaching of their children. It was bitterly anti-union. Today, because of Maria Elena Durazo and the way in which that Local 11 organized itself, Los Angeles is the home of 800,000 working people and working families who belong to democratic unions at the local scene. 800,000. Because what she did spread to janitors and spread also to healthcare workers. I did workshops with all of them as well. Now, what I'm saying to you is that if we're to have a better world, we need at least two major local institutions of power. We must have religious congregations of great compassion and love that exercise that love in concrete ways in their own local communities. But we must also have millions of working families who are united through democratic unions, because that gives them the economic power to resist the forces of greed and enables them to establish economic and social and racial and gender justice in our world. So when I speak of nonviolent struggle, I know it is the essence of every great religious saint and preacher and prophet and teacher of the past. So we of religion need to stop being shy about understanding that love is a force for good, a force of power, the creative power of the universe, and we must tap that force and reject all that is in contrariness to love and truth. With that power, that creation and that the living God gives, we can change a Los Angeles or a Bangladesh. We can change all of the places where we live in such a fashion that we can see a new world. Let us become citizens not alone of God's kingdom. Let us become citizens of a world that we do not yet see, but which we know is reality.